People will be joining as we go. All right, give me 1 second here. We share the screen. Oh, I am sharing. Am I still sharing? Can you guys see? Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, just a second here. All right, welcome to our first meeting of 2022. We have a pretty packed agenda, so just a few programming notes as we're waiting for some of our speakers to trickle in. We're going to try to get you out by 7:30, if not sooner. If you have any questions unrelated to the speakers, please try to keep them to the end. And if there's questions related to each speaker, please try to make them as brief as possible. If you have a public announcement, please use the reactions button and raise your hand. And we will give 1 minute per person for public announcements. And I'll use a timer so we can move along with the agenda. Another programming note is we will probably be canceling our March meeting in celebration of Nowruz. A lot of us are going to be busy with family and also other organizations. So we'll make that official soon. It's not quite official quite yet. And then just as a preview for our next meeting, which will likely be in April, Paula McCormick will be giving us a great talk about, I'm sorry, what's the name of the book again, Paula?
It's called CAST, C-A-S-T-E.
That's right.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We're very much looking forward to that. And the only other thing that I will just mention is that the US and Iran are in the middle of a, sort of JCPOA Part 2. So I keep reading that any day now there might be a deal again. Although I'm not holding my breath and I'm expecting a less than perfect agreement, but just something to watch for. And I hope that in the future meetings we can actually have someone to kind of speak about that topic, important topic on foreign policy. And if we can find the right person, then I'll gladly take the mantle and give you my perspective on it. So, all right, let's move to the public announcement portion. And I'm going to just stop sharing here. And it looks like we have one public speaker, Mr. Daniel Smichowski. Sorry if I butchered your name. The floor is yours.
Okay. Salam, Chichuri. I'm probably the only candidate that ever ran locally that has a poster of Shireen Ebadi in my garage. But, you know, I grew up with the Iranian community, but none of that means anything to anybody in the Democratic Party. All they care about is how much money you have and how many important people back you and why you're in like Flynn if you have important people behind your campaign. I'm running for District 2 of the San Diego City Council. I'm not going to win, I know that, but I will do a lot of political damage, I call it, by exposing the truth and nothing but the truth on how these Democratic candidates get elected. They get elected in a fundraising war of money, and more money. And the money is not even local. The money doesn't even come from the local area.
All right.
And the endorsement.
Time. I'm sorry, I have to put the time on. Thank you very much for that. And now if I can figure out how to turn off that timer, sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Smuchowski. All right, we're gonna move to the, is there anyone else with a public service announcement? All right, if not, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Sudi was gonna give us a quick update on IADC, and maybe you can just, for the benefit of this group, give us a little bit about what IADC even is. Okay, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. IADC stands for Iranian American Democrats of California. We are nearing 1 year anniversary of the whole idea and the concept coming together. We realized last year when the ADEM elections was happening that we had, an extraordinary number of Iranian Americans across the state running. I believe there was 23 of us running, and 17 of us actually won our elections or were appointed to the county. And eventually 11 of the 17 also were placed on one of the standing committees of CDP. So we just felt like that the time is right. We had always wanted to either add a caucus, which CDP is not, keen on that idea anymore. And then now what we were offered, which didn't realize that it was an option, it was to create a statewide democratic organization that could be affiliated with CDP. And that's the route that we followed. Took us about 6 months to come to an agreement among all those who are already vested into the process with our bylaws and our structure, and how to make sure that we're going to have regional representation and don't, really entertain any identity politics. And so we're happy that our inauguration happened in August, and we formally had our first election in November. Yours truly was elected to be the acting president. We do not have a position as president or vice president. It's rotational. So each person only gets to be the president for 1 year if they are a regional chair. So we've been very, very focused on doing strong ground up work on our standing committees and, defining our values. I'm very happy to see Maury and Tony and Maz, they have been very much vested into this process. And, the next step is that as soon as the convention is done, we would be getting into endorsing. We do send a monthly newsletter out. It always comes out the last Thursday of each month. So this week we're going to be sending our February one. If you are interested, please, share your email in the chat, and I will add you to our email list. And what's really special about this one is that we're highlighting 6 Iranian Americans who are running for our candidates for a certain elected position, from mayors to Board of Supervisors and Congress and all that. So, we welcome you. It's about Iranian Americans and allies. You don't have to be an Iranian American, so long as you believe in our values and you would like to be an advocate. We welcome you. And you can always get our newsletter and not be a member. So either way, we welcome you to our circle, and I appreciate your time. I hope I gave a good cover of it. If there was any questions, I'd be happy to answer that.
Thank you very much, Sudi John. Does anyone have any questions for Sudi? I know.
I just want to make a comment that Iranian American Democrats of California is a very progressive club, unlike some of the other clubs.
Is club the correct?
No, we're not a club. We are a statewide organization. And if you can see my logo behind me right here, we put it as all shades of blue. Obviously, if you do look at our statement of values, as Murijan said, they are progressive in a sense that we are forward thinking, right? And we are on boss and on bot. So therefore, we're not beholden to any special interest. And beside the special interest of the Iranian American community, both at home and in diaspora.
Very nice, thank you. And I know I've personally participated in the endorsement as well as the policy committee, and I encourage anyone here or anyone who's very policy minded to please join those committees or tell your friends about them. All right.
Thank you. And I'll share some of our social media information in the chat. Follow us, and we'll be in touch.
Great. Thank you, Sudhi John. All right. So, and just as another program, maybe I mentioned it already, but Terra Lawson-Remer is running a bit late, and she did warn us a little bit. So I expect her to be here around 6:15, hopefully. So please bear with us as we go through the agenda. All right, so let's move on to we're going to go a little bit out of order here. So we're going to get a new exciting candidate from District 50, Kylie Taitano. She is running for the new District 50, which used to be called 52. I know I've gotten to know her a bit since about, I don't know, I think it was sometime October or November. And I think this is going to be one of the races to watch. This is my own district, and I know several of you are in the district as well. So let me turn the floor over to Kylie now. Hi,
Thank
Kylie.
you, Maz. Hi, good evening, Iranian American Dems. Thanks so much for having me tonight. I'll try to keep it brief because I want to be conscious of Supervisor Lawson-Remer's time. But my name's Kylie Taitano. And yes, I am running to represent Congressional District 50, our new congressional district. And so just a little bit about me. By day, I'm a senior software engineer at Intuit, and my job is to lead teams of software engineers to develop and deliver solutions for millions of Americans to overcome their financial challenges. I work on TurboTax specifically. On the side, I am the CEO and co-founder of Code with Her, which is a San Diego-based nonprofit. I'm proud to say that we are a diverse, all-female team, and we have served thousands of students within San Diego County, across the country, and even abroad in our mission to close the gender and diversity gap in tech through our coding classes. I've lived in the district for over 11 years since my undergraduate days at UCSD. I received my undergrad degree in computer science in 2014. And I'm still very active in the community, UCSD community. I serve on the board of the UCSD Computer Science Department's Alumni Board. And my job is to oversee our scholarship program for our undergrad and master's students. I got my start being politically engaged in Democratic Party politics in 2016 when Senator Bernie Sanders awoke me from my political slumber. I volunteered for both of his presidential campaigns, but in 2020, I actually took on a lead volunteer organizer role where I led dozens of volunteers to knock on over 4,000 doors in University City, UTC, where I live, and Claremont, as well as I was appointed by the campaign to serve as the advisor to the Tritons for Bernie student organization at UCSD. And we knocked on almost all of the undergraduate dorms. So that was very exciting. Currently, I serve in the California Democratic Party as an executive board member and assembly district delegate for our now recently redistricted 78th Assembly District. And I also serve on our county party's central committee too. For me, I think the most important traits that I can bring to Washington are my integrity and tenacity. So integrity is in my DNA. I was born and raised on the beautiful US Pacific Island territory of Guam. I am half Filipina and half Chamorro, who are the indigenous people of the island. And my heritage has shaped my political beliefs because I was brought up to know that when the community prospers, we all as individuals prosper. And there is a specific word in Chamorro to describe this kind of cultural relationship with each other that we have in the community. And that word is inafamelik. So inafamelik means that our social relationship with each other is built on respect, reciprocity, and caring for the well-being of the whole. So being a progressive is really a no-brainer for me because that's how I was brought up to operate on the island. And so I learned perseverance from my mom. She had me when she was in high school, but she raised my sister and I as a young single mother, but she never gave up. I mean, you could put this woman in a steel box and she would just, she would know how to get out without any tools or anything, any way to help her. And as an example of this, After high school, when I was young, she wanted to be a teacher. So she pursued her education, bachelor's of education degree at the University of Guam. And she would bring me to classes with her, to her college courses. She would take a Walkman, some snacks, and books and coloring books to keep me entertained while she went through her degree program. Another thing too is when Guam was hit with typhoons, which we are frequently hit with, we'd be out of power for days, weeks, months. And she would, this memory I have of her is that she would put out a big orange tub of water out on our balcony to sit in the sun all day, just so that my sister and I could have a hot bath at night. So my mom was very, very resourceful. And I'd been through a lot of challenging times in my life, and if it wasn't for my mom, I don't think I'd be where I am today. And I know that being in Congress will be challenging. If you didn't know, Congress is made up of 30% women. And in the tech field, the demographics are actually very similar. 30% of the tech workforce is women. So I'm used to being the only woman in the room. I'm used to being the only minority. I am used to getting shut down and blocked and ignored and talked over. But, nevertheless, I persisted. So, that is something that I feel like I could bring with me to Washington, because again, I am used to all that. So, and I was able to deliver on everything that I was promised to deliver through work, through my nonprofit and political organizing. So I'm running because my generation is out of time. We're experiencing the consequences of the climate crisis as we speak. Student debt is crushing us. Housing, healthcare, just the cost of living it's looking pretty bleak for us right now. And I believe that we need a Democratic Party that works for everybody, and not just the wealthy few. So I will fight for the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, tuition-free public colleges, and other policies that work for everybody so that we can be guaranteed a future. And I'm going to do it all without taking a single penny from corporations or lobbyists. And so if you'd like to learn more about my campaign, our campaign, if it's okay with you, Maz, I'll drop my information in the chat, KylieTaitano.com. And I'm looking forward to getting to know this community better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kylie. And yes, please feel free to drop your info on the chat. And one of the things I'd like to remind everybody is, the differences amongst candidates and how primaries are in some ways much more important than general elections. The primary is going to be June 7th. The regular election is going to be on 11. I think most people in here probably already know that, but please do let your family members know as well to pay close attention to primaries, and also understand how candidates are funded. Kylie is not taking any corporate PAC money, and so that is something that makes a difference. So thank you, Kylie. Any questions for Kylie? I see Supervisor Terra Lawson-Remer has joined the room, I think.
Kylie, I just want to say we're looking forward to walking precincts for you, knocking on doors for you in a few weeks or whenever that starts for you.
Thank you so much.
And Kylie, who are you running against?
I am running against Representative Scott Peters.
Oh, I see. And is that the only two? Are you the only two, or are there others running as well?
There is another Democrat running as well. His name's Adam Schindler.
Okay. And if you don't mind that, and no one is on the consent calendar for that race, or did anybody get party's endorsement?
We blocked him at the first round of the pre-endorsing caucus.
Nice. So he didn't get the 60% either?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Very good.
Working on it.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you very much.
Kylie,
oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say you have my full support. Yeah, we're waiting for you for a long time.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. I'll drop my information in the chat. You all are also welcoming, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can have you back here after the primaries and talk about the general election. Very good. Any other comments? I think we're doing good with time, so I just want to give people a chance to ask questions if they have any before we move on to Tara. Oh, one more. We have a question from MF. Sorry, I don't know how to say your name.
I'm sorry, it's Michael Fleming, and it wasn't a comment. I'm actually a candidate too, so I was just raising my hand for that. I'm sorry, I jumped the
No
gun.
worries, no worries. Hold that thought for a second. Anything
Very
else for
excited.
Kylie? All right, thank you very much, Kylie. Kylie, feel free to stick around if you like. I think later in our program, we're going to have Will Rodriguez Kennedy, and we're going to have Terra next. So if you actually, we probably have time. Terra, are you on the bridge? Just want to make sure.
I'm here. Hold on. I'm going to come off video.
Okay.
I'm going to show you. Yeah, no, sorry. There was a ton of traffic because of the rain. So I just pulled up to my house. So if I can have 2 minutes, then I can get my daughter and myself indoors.
Sure.
And that would be much better than sitting in the car.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can do a public service announcement while you're getting yourself together.
That would be fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, the rain in San Diego, we're not equipped. So, but I'll be inside in about 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, let's go to, I'm sorry, was it Michael?
Yes, sir. It's Michael Fleming. I'm running for seat 35 instead of San Diego Superior Court. I'm a public defender up in Vista. I've been with the office for about 8 years. And before that, I was a civilian lawyer for the United States Marine Corps. While in law school, I worked for the Democratic Policy Committee for the late Senator Harry Reid. I came back, got the job at Western Area Council, which is actually the Commandant's Council. And then I decided to move to the Public Defender's Office. I'm running on a platform of closing the costly door of recidivism by using our drug courts, our homeless courts, and our veterans courts, rather than sending people to prison for drug and homeless crimes. I believe that everybody should be able to be treated fairly and with dignity and respect when they come before the court. I believe that Black Lives Matter. I also understand that it's difficult to be a police officer and that every case has to be examined fairly. I'd love to come back to your club for another meeting and hopefully make it on your endorsement calendar. And I'll take any questions. Oh,
all right. Actually, we're not
I would
doing
be the first.
Yeah, we're not doing questions at this time, but thank you. You can leave your info on the chat.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was just going to say my website's coming, and I would be the first public defender to be elected to the San Diego Superior Court and only the second Black male to be elected to San Diego Superior Court. So thank you. I'll put my email and website that's coming in the next couple of days in the chat. I really appreciate you giving me time to talk.
Thank you very much. All right. I see Mr. Dan Smichowski has his hands raised. Since we have time, why don't we give you another minute?
Thank you. I'm very grateful that you're giving me a little more time. I'm running for San Diego City Council District 2, and it's critical that you stay true to keeping this big money and big endorsements out of local politics. And as for the young lady running for Congress, good luck. I wish you well. I'm for you. Stay true to limiting the money. It's so, be conscientious. Vote with your conscience and spread the word. Please spread the word. The young lady running for Congress, she's more important than I am. And I mean that with my heart. Get behind her, help her, because I don't need the help. I'll fight on my own. And really, truly, let's be good people. Let's be conscientious. Thank you.
You have 60 more seconds.
Well,
just
Maury, you know me from Claremont, and you know what happened with the incumbent. I don't want to get into that, but when you vote for money, that's what you get. That's exactly what you get. You get a recall, you get discontent, you get unhappiness. When you vote for a candidate that's salt of the earth, that just salt of the earth, that wants to help with their heart, that doesn't have all the big name people behind them, that person is grateful. I'm grateful. The young lady was grateful that ran for Congress. She's grateful, I can tell. And the way she was brought up, my God, how could one turn their back on her? Help her. I implore you to help her. And please, finally, I see USD in the background with the Joan Kroc. I have letters from all the politicians on peace. And my father's peace plan is going to Swarthmore College in Pennsylvania from the Vietnam era. But anyway, and I knew Joan Kroc. I was at her property. I was at her house. I was invited there. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna wait for Supervisor Lawson-Remer to rejoin. I just sent her a quick note. I think she's probably still. Oh, there she's
I'm
back.
here.
All right, the floor is
Is
yours.
this
I think-
okay? I was
yeah.
gonna try to get onto the computer, but if you guys can all see me, I can do it from my phone.
We can see you very well. Why don't we just give you the floor? And I know we wanted to keep you to about 15 minutes. So let me I think you're trying to get on from your computer, maybe.
Yeah,
Okay, I just
let's see.
admitted
now
you there in case that's
You
easier.
guys are gonna have too much of me. You're gonna have two Terras. It's too much.
All right, and up to you how you want to use the time, how much you want for questions. And
Okay.
but basically what we wanted to know about is
Hi.
we want everybody to hear about some of your major accomplishments and what your big priorities are. And of course, someone's going to ask about the recall, so we might as well address that as well and leave it to folks to ask a few questions.
Great. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It's great to see so many friends here and hopefully make some new friends as well. I'm not one who loves to talk a lot. I love to listen to what you all are on, what's on your mind, and be able to answer any questions. So first, I just want to say it's been an incredible whirlwind the last basically 15 months. I feel like we've been able to make just such an extraordinary impact just in the 15 months. And now we got to continue doing the work and start to consolidate some of this work. But, we inherited a county board that had basically done nothing for 40 years. I mean, so it was so bad. They didn't have a homeless action plan at all. Even though we're one of the lead agencies responsible for homelessness. We had been sued for a climate action plan that was so bad, it didn't meet minimum state standards. Just sort of like across the board, no action on climate, no action on homelessness. I mean, we had a policy, it was one of the first things I did when I got elected, to investigate anyone who applied for benefits and go to their house, look through their closet, see if they were, telling the truth on their applications, which is incredibly intimidating and really discriminatory and basically criminalizes poverty. So we had a county who criminalized poverty, who was fighting against immigrants, fighting against people of color, fighting against doing anything on climate action. So we've really been able to make some big strides, but honestly, we still have a lot of work to do, because trying to turn a county bureaucracy around of, 18,000 employees, $7 billion budget that's been run like old boys corporation for 40 years is not an easy task. So I think some of the big highlights that I'm really proud of, we started this immigrant legal defense program. So every immigrant who's detained in San Diego County is going to have access to free legal counsel so that they actually can have their rights heard and respected and have their day in court. We did a full review of all of our county programs and access and enrollment to look at how we can make it easier for people to get services that they have rights to at the county. And one of the main things we did was get rid of a program called P100, which was that investigatory program I was mentioning before, where you basically went around and investigated people for being poor and then kicked them off their benefits, which was horrible. We won free phone calls for inmates who were incarcerated. They'd had this big corporate phone company that was making, $15, $30 off of inmates' phone calls. So many inmates didn't even speak to their families, couldn't afford to call their families. And so we kicked out the big corporate phone company and said that all these calls have to be free moving forward. So that was a huge victory. And now we're working on a climate, basically it's called a regional decarbonization green jobs plan to figure out how we can get to zero carbon by 2035 here in San Diego County, and do it in a way that really prioritizes good jobs for working families, that makes sure that no one loses their job because we transition sectors, but instead that there's just as good or better opportunities being created. for everyone in our community. And so that's something we've been working on for the last year. And it's gonna, and Mark actually has, Mark Leo just put in the chat, the board letter that brought it forward. And maybe Mark can also share, we're doing a webinar in the next couple of weeks that does a deep dive on the regional decarb green jobs plan, about what's in it and what it's gonna look like and how we can win on it. So if you all wanna sign up for that, that would be great. It's gonna be, I think, a big uphill battle. It's not like this is easy, it's hard everywhere. But I think if we can move the ball forward here in San Diego County, we can become a model for other regions across the country about what they can do to get to zero carbon, because we got to do it. We got to do it in a way that prioritizes equity and really creates good jobs, as well as a green future for all of us. Just a side note, my little daughter, you can't see her, but she's sitting here staring at the screen, wondering when mommy's going to give her dinner. Anyway, she's 2.5. And I look around and I think, what are we doing? Like she's gonna, what kind of planet is she gonna inherit? If we continue on this path. And so it's so vital that where the rubber meets the road, which is right here at the county, that we really show leadership on these kinds of issues. This is her. She wanted to say hi. So those are some of the big things that we've been working on. We're also doing a lot of work on homelessness and alternatives to incarceration. For really ever, the county has used jail as a frontline response. Hold on 1 second. I have to give her a toy that she wants.
No worries, take your time.
You know what? Why don't I do this? Mark's on this call and he knows a lot about all of our alternatives to incarceration work. Mark, can you fill folks in on that for 2 minutes while I get my daughter set up on her toys?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I just put a link to the board letter from October 19th when we passed the board letter to pursue data-driven approaches to public safety. And so some of the work that our office is doing is related to mobile crisis response teams, because as some of you all know, some areas that folks have been calling when it comes to reaching out to the police that haven't been helpful are for folks dealing with a mental health crisis. So we have expanded the MCRTs across the region, and there's actually an access hotline that I don't remember right now, but when I do remember it, I will put it in the chat. And it also was featured last week on CBS Local 8, where they highlighted some of these workers from the mobile crisis response team as they did a day with them and seeing the work that they're doing out in the field and why it's important to highlight the work that they're doing as they deal with folks dealing with mental health events. I'll pass it back to you, Supervisor.
Great, thanks. Mark managed to talk about our other big thing at the same time, which is our mobile crisis response team. So, this work is really important because for honestly a generation, they just have been locking people up in jail, basically for being homeless, for sleeping in a doorway, for peeing on a sidewalk, for having a mental health crisis. And there were no alternatives. And it costs taxpayers about $80,000 a year to put people in jail. And then you end up with people who have a criminal record. Now you can't get a job. Now you can't rent an apartment. So now you have to be homeless because you have a criminal record, and you only had a criminal record in the first place because you were suffering from a mental health issue or, had a substance abuse disorder. So it's just like, frankly, immoral, the situation. And so we have identified about 9,000 people who've been cycling in and out of our criminal justice system. And we've convened a task force that includes health and human services folks, public safety folks, the Board of Supervisors. And we're looking at, over the next 2 years, scaling up investments in all these kinds of alternatives, crisis stabilization units, permanent supportive housing where people can get services in housing, substance use disorder treatment centers, step down mental health facilities, all these alternatives, which is really where people should be being sent as opposed to being sent to jail, including alternative sentences like community service that's supervised, which is much more appropriate for a nonviolent misdemeanor than being locked up and, then potentially, being, in a worse situation than they were previously, and certainly not improving our public safety whatsoever when you just end up with a revolving door. So that is something it's a real uphill battle. But if you want to get involved in that work, if you want to ping Mark in the chat, he'll make sure you get looped in, because it's going to continue to be a lot of advocacy that we need to bring to open people's eyes, to say, like, we don't need to put everyone in jail if that's not the right place for them. So I think those are most of the big things that I've been thinking about and working on the last couple months. But there's more, and I'm sure you'll ask a question, and we'll just begin the conversation from there. So can I just start calling on folks? Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Maury can go
Great.
first. He's got his hand raised.
I just want to make a short comment that thank you for being there. Thank you for getting elected. I wish we had more real Democrats like you to be elected. And you were elected and replaced a Trumpian fascist. We have more of those fascists all around the US. And thank you for all that you have done, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Maury. Appreciate it.
All right.
And by the way, I just want to say, I have to thank you all, right? Because I know I'm the one who sits in the seat and does the job every day, but I would not have gotten elected if it wasn't for you. And I know I won't get reelected if it's not for you, right? I mean, I am in a very purple district. It's a swing district. And so it's the work we all do together that makes the difference. And I think that's just something I always know and always keep in the forefront of my mind, that it's us all working together that's able to be able to keep to make the difference in our community. Could we hear from?
If you don't mind, I'm going to try to go in order of raised hands. We'll go with Mr. Dan and Amira John. And just a quick note that we're still waiting for Chair Rodriguez Kennedy to join, so he should be joining soon. So let's use the time to ask more questions. Mr. Daniel, you're next.
Thank you. I do have a question. Most residents, voters, are exhausted with the crocodile tears regarding the homeless. Now, what is the plan? What plan do you have that will work? What do you do when the homeless, when they refuse medical care, food, lodging? You could give them a room at the Georges V and a dinner at Maxime's and they wouldn't take it. What do you do? What do you do when they don't have the willpower and they will not remove themselves from their life on the street? What do you do?
I think it's important to understand that the homeless population is not uniform. There's a lot of diversity in that population, right? And so you need different kinds of services and different interventions and different approaches for various segments. So I think the segment of the population you're talking about, and it's a very significant segment, it's a very real problem, are folks that, like, if you gave them a room, they wouldn't take it, they couldn't use it, they would be back on the streets the next day. And it's, you could say it's willpower. I think in general, it's not willpower. It's usually a substance use disorder or mental and behavioral health challenges that they're in that they've been struggling with, that they need help with. But they are at such a far gone point that they don't even know they need help, and they won't get the help voluntarily. And those are the people that have been cycling through and being locked up in our jail because they won't get help, and they won't get help on their own. And so that's a huge part of what we're looking at with this alternatives to incarceration work is places that we can put folks that they might have to stay. The judge might say, look, you're required to be here, you can't leave. However, it's not jail. Like, you're going to get the services that you need to get rehabilitated or get your life back together, as opposed to just being locked in jail. And that's what's really different, is we're looking at these gaps in our system, because right now we don't have places for those people at all to get that kind of service and get that help. It's just either like a voluntary shelter where they might not want to stay, or they get locked up. And so we're looking at that place in our ecosystem where there really isn't anything. Like there's no place to for a judge. You know, I met with the Superior Court judge and she was like, look, we'd love to not send these people to jail, but we need a place that we can like require that they attend and be, because they won't go voluntarily. And so that is a piece of our homeless population. But like I said, we have to look more broadly. That's only a segment. There's also folks on our streets who absolutely would benefit from and be able to maintain stable housing if they had the opportunity. You know, one of the things that is most concerning to me is we have about a quarter of our homeless population is over 55. And a good number of those were made homeless because they're on fixed incomes. And then we have this like radical rising cost of housing and inflation here in San Diego, but especially the cost of housing. And so now they're like $200, $300, $400 behind each month. And then after 1 year or 2 years of that, it eats up their savings and they're on the street. So one of the things we're looking at with that group is a shallow rent subsidy where we're really helping people not get homeless in the first place. Some of our elderly population that absolutely can pay the vast majority of their rent. They have a car, they can pay the vast, but they just can't make ends meet because of that, you know, $200, $300 gap. And so with them, we're focused on keeping them from becoming homeless. So what's important is to understand that one, there's no magic bullet. You asked about, you know, crocodile tears, and I'm going to tell you straight up, we are not going to like quote fix the homeless problem. And I think anyone who comes and says, oh, we got a solution or we're going to fix it, they're just trying to win on the election, because there is no solution. Like it's every day it's worse, and partly because people around the country give homeless people in their communities bus passes to San Diego. So, you know, we're dealing with a problem that is coming from a lot of different sources, and we're not going to solve it. I think we can do a lot better, but part of doing better means having more targeted and appropriate solutions for different segments of our population. That's like really based in what's data driven and what's going to work based for different people, because different people are different. That's one half of it. And the other half is like, I definitely do not think we're going to solve the homelessness problem. I think we can make strides. We think we can do a hell of a lot better, but I don't think we're going to solve it.
Okay, let's go to Amira for the next question. All right, I'll save my question for last. Go ahead, Amira.
I think I missed the part of what has been done, as not as far as not putting him in jail, but what has been done for the other homeless that they can go to, you know, live in a place. Has anything been done for them? And one thing that puzzles me is that like organizations like Father Joe's they have been very successful in putting homeless people, finding jobs for them and putting them away for a while, at least 6 months, if I remember when I was volunteering for them. And also they're setting up a second shelter now, I believe. Do you have anything, have you set up anything for them right now to put them away? Not the ones with the major issues, but the ones that they're put, like you said, you know, they're short change for, you know, a few months and they lose their home.
So I think there's a lot of pieces to that question. I mean, are you asking about short-term temporary shelters? I'm just trying to, is it like the Father Joe? Okay. Yeah. So like the Father Joe's program, that's in part funded by the county. And so there's a number of those around the county. And like you mentioned, Father Joe's is starting a new one. There's a group downtown called Path that's also in part funded by the county. And there's another program in Escondido that's run by Interfaith, and that's also in part funded by the county. So the county has a number of those shelters, and they're not full, actually, interestingly enough. I think we need more of them, but they're not full. When we do the needs assessment of where the needs are in terms of our homeless population, it's not in these kind of temporary shelter beds. It's much more in this permanent supportive housing and like places with services, which is where the gaps are. And that's where that's where we're really focusing, which is what I was talking about in terms of, over the next 2 years, doubling down on investments in those kinds of services.
All right, thank you very much. And we're running a few minutes behind schedule, so we do want to be sensitive to your time. I just want to wrap things up with one last question, which is about, which is not a new event. It's about incarceration and criminal justice reform, which is something you touched on quite a bit. Last August, when Kelly Martinez made her announcements to replace Sheriff Gore, or to run for that position, you and all the Democratic members of the San Diego Supervisors endorsed Miss Kelly Martinez. Can you explain why the rush to endorse them so quickly, given that, is the reporting true that it was intended to block Dave Myers?
That was not my intention. I actually really like Dave a ton. I think he has great values, and I think he would be a good sheriff as well. So certainly I think you have a lot of different electeds with different motives, but that was definitely not my motive. Very honestly, I think Kelly is going to be able to drive the reform agenda that's so important to me with the sheriffs. I think we have a lot of reform we need to do. Like the sheriffs, I think you all read the audit report probably that just recently came out about the jails. We have, so that to me is not news. It's something we've known about for a long time, like the deaths in the jails. We have a sheriff's department that never really had any policies around civil rights. So, this work that I'm doing on alternatives to incarceration, where we actually look at like not locking people up, but looking at giving them another opportunity to get their lives together and not just put them in jail and throw away the key. So it's a huge amount of reform. And one of the things that I think Kelly brings is a real commitment to that. And particularly a commitment to community-based policing and to the mobile crisis response teams and really scaling those up. So when I thought about endorsing Kelly, for me, it was just a question of who's going to be able to be my most effective partner in making the big changes that we need to make with the sheriffs. And I think that Kelly is that person who's going to be able to drive that reform agenda at the sheriffs. But, to your original question, I think every elected probably had their own motivation, but mine had nothing to do with blocking Dave, who I actually think is pretty great.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you for your time again. And we hope to see you again soon. All right, if it's okay, I'm going to move on to the next agenda item. I see that Chair Will Rodriguez-Kennedy has joined us. Chair Rodriguez-Kennedy, can you hear us? And do you need me to give you sharing privilege?
Yes, please.
Okay, fantastic. All right, and let me press the right buttons here. And thank you for taking the time to meet with us to talk about some of that. We're very interested to hearing about both county level as well as national level topics, which is, I think, something you're planning to touch upon. So I know when you were last here, I think it was maybe less than 2 years ago. Really appreciate all the data you gave us about how the party is going, and of course times are different now, and we're really very much looking forward to hearing how things are.
Okay.
I'll give you the floor.
All right. So hello, everyone. My name is Will Rodriguez-Kennedy. I am the chair of the San Diego County Democratic Party. I also serve on the California Democratic Party's executive board, and I serve as an elected member of the Democratic National Committee. So I'm plugged in at all levels of our party. At work, I work for the state of California for the Board of Equalization, which manages property taxes and a bunch of other tax programs. I also serve on the Civil Service Commission for the county and the Convention Center Board of Directors. So I'm sort of wearing many hats, but I'm talking to you today as the chair of our party. I do have a presentation, which I will share now. normally I have two screens, so hopefully this will work out. 1 minute. There we go. So let's get to the right spot. All right. So we should be able to see it.
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right, perfect. So I'm gonna put it into the slideshow. So thank you all for having me. I wanted to talk a little bit about redistricting and sort of the outcomes of redistricting, a little bit about the party, and preview of our goals and initiatives for 2022. And then if there are any questions, if you want to talk about national stuff and things like that, I will be here for that. So first, new districts have come out for 2022. There are still a lot more districts that have yet to be drawn. The districts that have come out so far are the districts that were in the that have primary elections. There are still a bunch of districts that are only up in the general election, and so they will be coming out later in the summer. We do have new maps for Congress, state legislature, county board of supervisors, the city of San Diego, the city of Chula Vista, the Assembly, Senate, et cetera. Or other jurisdictions with district elections will finalize their maps sometimes between the spring and the summer of this year. Or well, actually, not even, I think it's, well, June. By the primary, we should have more maps. The county party is getting all its data together on these redistricting, and you can find all that because if you were to look for like individual maps, you'd have to go to the like different redistricting websites. So we're putting it all in one place. If you go to www.sddemocrats.org/redistricting, it lists all the different redistricting maps in a single place, so you don't have to go Googling and searching for different redistricting bodies. So first thing we want to talk about is the congressional maps. Now, one of the things that are the themes that are happening in terms of the statewide redistricting process. Well, actually, before we get into that, one of my overall frustrations with the process is the sort of arbitrary nature by which some of these commissioners drew some of the maps. It seemed very frustrating while watching for the districts and the near almost willy-nilliness of the changes that happened. One of the things I've been telling press is that it sounds it feels like we've given up intentional gerrymandering by people who know what they're doing for ignorant gerrymandering by people who do not know what we're doing or who have no clue. But in the grand scheme of things, we ended up okay. Between the old maps and the new maps, at least in the congressional level, a couple of themes that carried out through the congressional, state, senate, and assembly maps is that there was an intent by the commissioners to create coastal districts and inland districts. Those were very important to how the districts sort of shaped out. And there was an intent by commissioners to make it so that San Diego, the districts represented were more contiguous within San Diego. So in the congressional districts, for example, in the old maps, the 51st, 50th, and 49th all had large parts that left the county of San Diego. Imperial County for the 51st, Riverside for the 50th, and Orange County for the 49th. That means only two of the districts, the 52nd and the 53rd, were completely within San Diego. So in that way, we sort of gain in terms of representation in that now we have three completely contiguous districts within San Diego. That's the 50th, 51st, and 52nd. The 49th and 48th, the 48th and 49th still have taken small parts of Orange County and Riverside, but in the grand scheme of things, the bulk of their population remain in the county of San Diego. So we still have 5 congressional districts that are based in San Diego, but we have more in terms of complete representation. The populations of those districts are county bound. And if you look at the boundaries of those districts, they tried to keep us within the boundaries. The 49th is a district that had minor changes. It basically looks very similar to what it was last time. The 50th is basically a consolidation of all the unincorporated areas plus Poway and Santee. And it's basically East County. It also takes in a little bit of the southern Riverside, Temecula, the surrounding area. The 50th congressional district is a little weird. It's like a sort of, so it's supposed to be, it was this big, so the 50th congressional district before redistricting sort of looked like a combination of what the 50th and the 51st is now. Basically, they took a lot of the inland chunk of the old 52nd, and now it goes all the way up to like bracket around Escondido and takes into San Marcos. So it's got this weird fork thing coming down, going inland from San Marcos and the unincorporated areas around Escondido, all the way to the coast on La Jolla and Torrey Pines, all the way south to Coronado. So that is the current incumbent is Congressman Scott Peters. In the 51st congressional district, we have basically a chunk of the north of the old 53rd congressional district and a bunch of the old 52nd congressional district, creating this landlocked district in the middle of the county, or the south middle, but sort of county center, which is where Sarah Jacobs will be representing or is running for. And then the 52nd, what you'll see is a very compact district. So it used to be a little bit like thinner on the San Diego side. It would go across the border and then all the way up to Imperial County. That is now a completely contiguous voting rights district that was meant to empower the Latino community. So all in all, what you could say about this map is the more things change, the more they stay the same. The partisan registrations are very similar, and each of the incumbents have a clear place to which run. So we're not seeing incumbent conflict, but we are seeing some challenges. So in terms of the districts, and just as a note, the California 48th and the 49th, this is just within the San Diego side, but CA 49 is D+4. Once you put in Orange County, it's like D+2. CA 48 is a Republican district. It's like R plus like 14 or something when you take in Riverside. But the 50th, 51st, and 52nd are very heavily Democratic districts. And 50th is D+18, the 51st is D+17, and the 52nd is D+29. So in the grand scheme of things, we should be able to, in theory, keep control of the 49th congressional district, and we are very likely, I mean, the 50th, 51st, and 52nd will go to a Democrat, and more likely than not, the incumbent. The 48th is not within our reach. It won't be in our reach, at least until we redistrict again. Now, the state Senate, we don't have the partisan numbers, but we do have some interesting changes here. Again, the redistricting commission did a lot to create these inland and sort of coastal districts. So in all of these maps, they create these huge coastal districts. In this case, the new district that is going to be of significant interest is the 38th Senate district, which would be a pickup opportunity. It takes a little bit of Orange County, but the bulk of it is the coast of San Diego, taking in Camp Pendleton, Oceanside, Vista, Carlsbad, Encinitas, Del Mar, Solana Beach, the northern part of the city of San Diego, going all the way down to the 8th. So that is a Democratic district. We don't have the numbers yet, but it's probably something around D+6 or something. And we do have an opportunity to pick up that seat. It was currently represented by, I believe, Pat Bates. So the other thing that's weird about this map is the southernmost part of the southernmost district is no longer the 40th. It's the 18th. So the 18th looks very similar to what the old Congressional District 51 looked like. Basically, it's a sliver of like National City, Chula Vista, except all the way down to the border, east. But then it goes up into Imperial County, up into Riverside, all the way up into San Bernardino. And that's why it's named the 18th Senate District, because they number what coming south. And so that district starts all the way up in San Bernardino, comes down into San Diego. So now the southernmost district is the 18th Senate District. It is a pretty Democratic seat, a very Democratic seat. The current candidate who's running unopposed among Democrats is Steve Padilla, the council member from Chula Vista. The 39th is sort of an east-west district in the middle, which straddles the I-8. That is a Democratic district. It will be an open seat next cycle. Senate President Pro Tem Tony Atkins is termed out. The 40th is this boot-looking district in the middle of our county. There's a lot of confusion because the 40th used to be the southernmost district, but this is an R+0.5 district. It's actually a Biden +6 district. So it is a flippable seat. And we do have a pretty competitive candidate in Joseph Rocha. It starts from the border of San Diego, goes from the border of the San Diego County, takes in Escondido, San Marcos, the northern part of city of San Diego, and Santee and Poway, and then a bunch of the unincorporated area. So it's on the edge of being it's a competitive seat. And then the 32nd seat is basically the unincorporated area of northeastern San Diego with a bunch of Riverside County. So that is a district that is heavily Republican and is outside of our range. So in short, we gain in terms of representation. We used to have only 4 Senate districts. Now we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5. And of those districts, 3 of them are Democratic, 38th, 39th, and 18th. One of them is Republican, 32nd, and the 40th is a flip district. But because the 18th was represented by a Republican, which will now be likely represented by a Democrat, so we'll pick up that seat. But that means that the 38th and the 40th are both pickup opportunities. So we will likely see a lot of investment in that, especially because the leader of the Senate caucus, our amazing Senate President Pro Tem and local Tony Atkins is here. We're likely to see a lot of investment in making sure that we can flip 1 or 2 of those districts. So in the assembly districts, it's again, they did a lot to sort of keep the assembly districts contiguous within our county, while also sort of creating this like inland coastal thing. They wanted to keep a lot of these coastal communities together. The biggest changes, we still have the same amount of assembly districts, but we have more of them that are completely contiguous within San Diego. So in the old maps, the 71st, 75th, and 76th all went out of the county. 76 went into Orange County, the 75th and 71st went into Riverside, and I think maybe the 70th, it went into Riverside. So now the 75th, 76th, 77th, 78th, 79th, 80th are all completely within San Diego County. So we gain representation in that we have more consolidated representation among the assembly districts. The 74th, just looking at their numbers, the 74th on the San Diegan side is D plus 0.2. What that means is if you factor in Orange County, you'll probably have about an R plus 1 or 2. In the 75th Assembly District, it's largely the unincorporated areas except Poway and I think Santee. So very similar to that Senate district that they drew. Oh, not the Senate. Oh, the congressional district that they drew. The 48th, so it looks very similar to the 48th congressional district. It's R plus 12, so it's out of the range, which actually makes sense because I think the congressional district that they drew was R plus 12. The 76th Assembly District is D plus 6. 77th is D plus 16. 78th is D plus 25. 79th is D plus 26. 80th is D plus 27. So we gain, so of the districts that are completely within San Diego, 5 of the 6 of them are Democratic districts or lean Democrat. D plus 6 is actually pretty strong. And then one of them is the 75th is not a competitive seat for Democrats, but the 74th is. So we'll see what happens. There is a San Clemente City Council member, Chris Duncan, who I think will receive the party's endorsement from the state party later this month, or next month, earlier this month. So the County Board of Supervisors, there was sort of a different, so where you had at the state district, the state maps, they were talking a lot about coastal and inland. There was a little bit of that in San Diego, but what San Diego seemed to focus more on were communities of interest that had to do with, for example, the Latino community, the indigenous community, and then a little bit of coastal inland with the District 3. So District 5 and what it looks like now is because there is a strong community of interest that was very active in advocating for uniting the Latinx community from Oceanside to Escondido and from Escondido to north to the border, alongside the indigenous community among the tribal reservations, so Pechanga, which I didn't know was in San Diego, I thought it was across the border, but Pala, Rincon, San Pascual, etc. So that is why that district came to be the way it is. It didn't gain as much in terms of Democratic representation, but it still is a competitive district. There is a Democratic advantage, but not by much. The coastal district becomes from Carlsbad to Coronado, so cross Loma Portal to Coronado. It takes in a little bit of Italy. So that is the new District 3. There was a lot of concern about the numbering, but they figured that out too. The District 4 was supposed to be, at least there was an attempt by the BIPOC community to create a BIPOC empowering district, but the redistricting commission took a turn against that in the last moments, in the last meetings that they convened, and they added Claremont, which is not as diverse as communities like La Mesa or Lemon Grove. And that sort of made it a pretty status quo district. So it's an inland district that straddles the 8, mostly south of the 8, with a little bit north of the 8 in terms of Claremont and parts of La Mesa. District 1 is, again, one of those compact districts that was definitely targeted towards the Latinx community. It looks very similar to what you saw in the congressional district and the assembly districts and the Senate districts, that they're that very compact southern district along the border. The weird district in this map is District 2, which takes in a bunch of East County, Santee, El Cajon, Poway, but also takes parts of the city of San Diego in ways that don't much make sense. It takes parts of District 5, parts of District 7, parts of District 6, which makes it a really interesting district. In terms of the numbers, 4 of the 5 districts are Democratic leaning or Democratic seats. So in District 1, it's D plus 28. District 2, it's R plus 4, which isn't significant. I mean, it's still, in a couple of months or years, that could be a competitive district. District 3, it's D plus 14. District 4 is D plus 28, and District 5 is D plus 4. So if we had to bet, depending on turnout, we were definitely going to maintain our Democratic majority in terms of the 3-2 majority. The question is whether or not we can take District 5. We do have a candidate there, so we'll have to see. And then what happens in District 2 as the voter rolls start to change because the party is growing significantly. In the city of San Diego, in terms of the major changes, the main things that looked to be happening is that they wanted to create a stronger API empowerment district. So they did that with District 6, taking in UTC from District 1, and then taking in parts of East San Diego, so it's east-west. And then another thing that they did was they wanted to protect those coasts, having 2 coastal districts. So they had, but they changed up District 1 and 2 significantly. So instead of having UTC, District 1 took in PB and Crown Point. And then they did this weird thing in District 2 where it's Claremont plus Loma Portal, which means you cannot actually drive and stay into the district. So if you're driving from one part of the district into the other part of the district, the only way to stay in the district without is to use a boat. Basically, you can't drive from one part of the district and remain in the district while doing so. So that district is interesting. There's not much change in terms of District 3, 9, 4, and 8 south of the 8, except that they're coming north of the 8. Because there's so much growth north of the 8 and there's not many more places you can go south of the 8, District 3 and District 9 started moving north. District 3 took in a bunch of western Mission Valley, and District 9, I think, took in the sort of Qualcomm area in eastern Mission Valley. In terms of district numbers, all of them have Democratic pluralities or majorities, ranging from the lowest number, which is D plus 8, which is still a strong Democratic plurality, to the highest number, which is like D plus 43 in District 3. So it is very likely that we will have, it's very possible that we will have a 9-member Democratic San Diego City Council next cycle. Let's skip that real quick. So going to the important dates that are coming up, the California Democratic Party's endorsing convention is March 3rd through 6th. The filing period for candidates closes on March 11th. The final date by which the party will entertain endorsements is March 29th, our county party. And then early voting begins in May 10th, and June 7th is election day. So we are, where are we at? We're less than 4 months out from another election day. So I don't know if that feels like it feels like we just went through an election. I guess we did with the recall and some of the specials, but we did not get much of a break. It's time for election season again. A couple of things about the county party. So we've done a significant amount of changes in terms of our endorsement process. For example, we now have a county party platform, and a questionnaire is tied to that platform. We've redesigned designed the questionnaire to gauge viability a little bit more. Incumbents are now subject to a questionnaire as well, so they're not just given a friendly incumbent anymore. They're evaluated by our candidate evaluations committee. And then, so there's objective measures by which we're not just giving away our friendly incumbents anymore, endorsements anymore. Here are the endorsements so far. If you want to know more of them, it's sddemocrats.org/candidates. But these are some of them that we've made so far. We'll let you know as we start expanding. The party can engage in hundreds of endorsements, so there will be a long list at some point. Upcoming endorsements, we still have County Board of Supervisors District 5, San Diego City Council District 2, Superior Court Judge seats. I think there are 3. And then the remaining races that are eligible in the primary. And then in March, we will announce our calendar for how we're going to, or when we're going to endorse in races in the general election. Skip that. Okay, so another thing we've done is we've reorganized the SDCP committee structure. One of the things I did when I opened the chair, I found out that the rules say that you don't have to be a member of the committee to serve on our one of our subcommittees. And that does a couple of things. One, it opens up committee service, participation to people who are not members of our committee. But 2, if you do get elected by the areas and you're not a member of the committee and you get elected onto one of our subcommittees, you can be appointed a member of the committee as an associate. So that gives you some voting power in terms of the different area structure, and you get to vote on endorsements and things like that. So that is something we've done, and we're going to launch a bunch of new committee, sort of this new structure coming out soon as we start updating. We're also doing a strategic planning process on February 27th. The clubs will likely be invited, at least the club leaders for sure, but the central committee will be doing that. There will be a lot of conversations we're having. I'm trying to wrap up a strategic plan by March. And then we are expanding our communications program with more multimedia capability. So what we're trying to do is answer the question of what a modern Democratic Party looks like. That means a lot of more content creation. It means an expanded communications budget. It means a new communications committee that will help us launch a website, sort of news type brand where we'll be able to release positive stories and coverage for our elected officials, while also being able to spin the issues from our perspective as Democrats. We're going to continue with our candidate training and new training for activists and organizers. And we have been widely adopting digital tools to run flexible, safe, and effective field campaigns. When I came on board as chair, we had about 10 or 15 people who are 15% of our Go team, for example, who is using minivan and distributed organizing. And when now we're at like around 52 or 53. So I'm trying to push that out as far as possible as we start again, answering the question of what a modern Democratic Party looks like, and how, and using tools and new technology that allows us to cut down the time it takes to, for example, cut turf, but also to gather data and scan it in and all that stuff. I am supposed to ask every club I go with, if you don't know about our Go team is like our precinct leader program. They're amazing individuals. It's the marvel of the state. They adopt precincts, and then they become basically the Democratic canvasser for that precinct, and they build relationships with those communities. Our Go team fielded 1,200 precinct leaders in the 2020 elections and 700 during the recall, which is actually more than you would expect from an off-year cycle. So if you would like to join the Go team, we are encouraging all Democrats to adopt their own precinct. Go to sddems.link/Go team, or go to our mobilize.us/San Diego Dems. There will be trainings. It's a really tight-knit group. I would love for you to participate in that way. And then also to make sure that the party is well financed as we launch the effort to contact 800,000 Democrats. We now have 800,000 Democrats. That's up 200 and something thousand since I took over as chair. It is a significant increase, but in order to contact 800,000 Democrats, it costs, even once you household them, about $300-something-thousand. So it is a very expensive effort. So we're asking all Democrats to do their part by going to www.sddem.org. It's a monthly giving program. You can do anything from $5 on up, and you get little gifts and things like that. So we would love for you to join us in that way. And then if there are questions, I'm here for them.
All right, thank you very much, Chair Rodriguez Kennedy. I think we lost a few people, but I do see one hand raised. I'll save my question for last. So Mr. Smichalski, what is your question? Actually, do I need to unmute you?
Mr. Chair, I thank you for your good work. And I agree with many of the items you mentioned. I've been in my district here, City Council, for over 55 years, and I would like to get your opinion on how unusual this election is among Democrats for District 2 of the San Diego City Council. I'd like you to shed light on which way the wind blows, if you may. Highly, highly unusual. And I don't know, I'm not a clairvoyant, and I can't read a crystal ball, but something is going to happen. Something very, very odd is going to happen. And one final word, I have nothing but good things to tell you. I don't hold any animosity toward the Democratic Party. I've been a Democrat my whole life, a delegate for George McGovern. I hold no animosity toward anyone. I choose my own fate in not being listed on your website as a candidate, and I don't want any Democratic endorsement. I wouldn't get it anyway. No one would endorse me, I know that. But anyway, Mr. Chair, which way does the wind blow in District 2? Give me your opinion. Shed some light, please.
It goes the way that people want it to be. The reality is that there is a vibrant primary happening in District 2. The party has not endorsed anyone in that race. It would be inappropriate for me as the chair of the party to weigh in on that race until the party has had the opportunity to make its decision clear. I understand that as of yet, the first time this race was engaged, that no candidate had the ability to secure the party's endorsement. So it's very possible that may happen again. In that case, we would yield the election to the people, and they will tell us who will advance the primary.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to, thank you for that. Let's go to Maury next.
Thank you for being here, Chair Rodriguez Kennedy. I am a lifetime Democrat, but recently I have been disappointed by the management of my club, which is the Claremont Democratic Club. Could you perhaps arrange maybe a retraining of some of the chairs of these clubs? About a month ago. Yeah, about a month.
Do you have my email?
Yes, I do.
Could you email me your concerns and we can talk about it?
I'll do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's chair at, just in case you don't have it, it's chair@sddemocratsplural.org.
Thank you.
And I'll respond.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, let's go to Rachel next.
Hello, and thank you for being here tonight. I had a question for you about the endorsement process. You mentioned that there's a viability portion now. Could you speak a little bit more about what that is for candidates?
It's less about, so when people think of viability, one of the things that they think about is like, oh, how much did you raise? And like, how many volunteers you have? And it's less about that. And although we do ask those questions, and more about asking about concepts, like what's your win number? Like, do you know what call time means? Are you canvassing? You know what I mean? So it's asking candidates to like work through the understanding that two understandings. One, it is not the party's role to run the candidate's campaign for them. We can run an ad hoc on operations, and our party's endorsement can, in some cases, mean that a candidate wins because most of the party votes are slate, but it is still the role of every candidate to run their own campaign. So we asked them about questions like, what's your field campaign look like? Like, what is your plan to get volunteers out? What is your plan to raise money? Or do you understand what call time is? Are you familiar with those types of concepts? And so rather than sort of setting metrics by which, because that could be sort of discriminative, I would say, like by, if we ask everybody how much they're raising, which we do, but like and we don't really release that, but if we made it just about that, then only the wealthy candidates would win. So it has to be more about like, because in some of these races, you don't have to actually raise the most money. You just have to raise enough, and you just have to be able to like reach out to your networks and just build like large, sort of communities and whatever. So I guess what we're doing is, one, we're asking those questions in terms of like understanding about the concepts of running a campaign. We're asking the viability questions like who's your campaign consultant and stuff like that, because some of those are red flags. But also we're addressing where the party can be helpful if this candidate gets the endorsement. So for example, if we find that a candidate doesn't have a consultant for whatever, we have the ability to connect them with consultants. We also have a consultant who assists the party and who gives their time to help candidates work through their concepts like win numbers and how to set up their campaigns and things like that. So it's a number of things, but it's also not a focus on finance or things like that, because that can be sort of delineating. Does that answer your question? I know it's a little bit diffracted.
All right, it does. Thank you. I was hoping that there would be less a focus on money, which is actually something that's just destroyed the Democratic Party, is the constant search for fundraising and dollars. And so it's good to hear that there's something that's more broad than that in terms of viability.
Oh, 100%. I understand. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Amira next. Thank you for that question.
Thank you again for attending our meeting and presenting us with all this information. This question may be sounding a little bit strange, but as someone who is in accounting, percentages generally don't mean much to me, because if you say one district has 5 votes of Democrats and they went up 5 votes, that would be 100% increase, and that really doesn't mean anything as far as whether they're more Democrats or Republican.
Sure.
Would it be possible to get numbers as far as number of voters, Republicans versus Democrats in those districts?
The raw numbers are available. So if you go to sdvote.com, their most recent voter registration report, it's in elections and then reports and then voter registration report. The most recent report has both the new districts and the old districts in the raw numbers. And then for the city of San Diego, the same thing. It's in the clerk's website already. I can link that somewhere and get that to you. But yes,
That would be
you
great.
have the hot numbers. But I will tell you this: contrary to the sort of perception out there, the San Diego County Democratic Party outpaces almost every other party in terms of our growth. If you look at the party's growth between the 2 years before I took over as chair and from 2019 on, we've grown by hundreds of thousands of voters. We now have 800,000 Democrats, which is more in population than some states. So we are the only political party that is gaining as part of as the share of the electorate. Meaning, so if you look at IPP, no party preference, for example, the no party preference saw a sharp increase of registrations because we enacted motor voter. But then they all started registering Democrat, and there is a comparable number. You can see I don't have I can send you the graph, but you can see like there's an uptick in MPP voters until 2020, and then a complete downtick. They lost like 80,000 or so voters. And then we grew by a similar amount. We're also taking in a bunch of Republicans. So our party is growing particularly strongly. But what that also means is that there are no excuses now. The problems that exist in San Diego, in the city, and the county, there are problems, and that means we have to fix them. We have to deliver on our promises to the people, and if we don't, that success will not continue.
Well, I know we have seen it backward in our club where people are transferring to undeclared from Democrats, and that has been kind of heartbreaking to see. But it's good to know that county-wise, at least we're increasing as far as Democrats are concerned.
It's a very significant trend.
Thank you.
We've grown in terms of percentages. Like I said, in terms of raw numbers, we've grown by close to 250,000 voters. In terms of percentages as a share of the electorate, we've grown by about 7%. So we're seeing 7% of the overall electorate, which from compared to where we were at 39%, we're now at 46, I'm sorry, we were at 38% and we're now at 44.5 or something like that. So it's about 6.5% growth, which represents 250,000 voters. So yeah.
If you don't mind sending me that link, I would really appreciate it. We are recording you, so I'm sure that it would I can access that. But if you can send it to me, I really appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for that question, Amira. So I think I have probably the last question. Oh no, there's more questions coming. I'll go next, just so I don't lose my question. Chair Will, I'd like you to put on your DNC hat for a second here. So I know your focus is primarily in the county. Not concerned about the county. I'm more concerned about nationally, given how close the last election was for the Democrats. And razor thin, right, in Georgia, Arizona, right? A little bit could have flipped it the other way. And the Republicans are now in a position to basically run on broken Democratic promises. And specifically, and we can go through the list, everything from, everything that was in Build Back Better, which was cut in half and then subsequently cut to zero. And I appreciate that the National Party is trying to get that resuscitated. But at the end of the day, we're probably going to get a very small fraction of that. So it's going to be extremely easy for Republicans to run on broken democratic processes.
Right.
And this is on top of voting rights, which was in basically, it's like political malpractice for not using the opportunity to actually restore our democracy.
Right.
Is there, within these DNC circles that you are in, is there anyone, am I an outlier in pointing this out, or is there anyone who is raising the alarm about the midterms and how irreversible this might be?
So I am among the insurgent wing of my party, of our party, where I come from the generation that is not happy. We are very upset. There are a lot of people who feel that, but there's also a very strong sort of disconnected group of people that are in the White House and that are around the DNC's leadership. It does seem that people aren't getting it. There are a series of promises that even the president has made that would help millions and millions of people that he's backtracked on. Student loans, a $10,000 promise that would help 43.4 million people. He's backtracked on it. The Build Back Better arrangement, he backtracked, or he's not been able to get that through. Then he gave away and congressional Democrats gave away our leverage by passing the infrastructure bill before Build Back Better, which I thought was a foolish move. He hasn't. No one's. We're still stuck with the filibuster. Not that a filibuster would help us right now. The reason we can't do a filibuster is because we have two Senate Democrats who would resist an attempt to override a filibuster. Meaning we can't even get even if we broke cloture, which takes 40 senators to do that. You can't even get a simple majority, much less worrying about a cloture vote in a filibuster. There's no motion on reforming the courts. I wrote an op-ed to the San Diego Union Tribune saying that the courts are an outdated, out-of-touch institution and we should reform them. We should expand them. There should be one justice for each of the circuits that we have there. That would make 13. It's a reasonable reform. Each justice is supposed to preside over an individual circuit court. So there are 9 justices. There are 13 circuit courts. There should be 13 justices and 13 circuit courts. Nobody's moving on that. I just authored a resolution with the DNC to get the student loan thing done because I'm a young Democrat with student loans. So and that would unlock 43 million people's ability to invest in our country and to spur our economy. I was looking at the statistics while reaching that I believe, if I remember correctly, 40% of Black Americans have said that they have put off raising families or getting married because of their student loan debt. A third of Latinos. This is an entire population of people who, and it goes through, it gets worse for the API community, for the Arab American community, entire segments of our population are putting off decisions like buying homes or having children or engaging in the economy because of student loan debts. And 66% of communities of color who have taken out student loans regret that they did so, which shows that not only like some of them didn't get their degrees, or when they did get their degrees, their outcomes didn't actually affect their finances in a meaningful way, and they're saddled with this student loan debt. And I'm just going to talk about this because it's my resolution. But in addition to that, as people turn 60, the age of people 60 and above who have student loan debt still at 60 doubles. It doubles in 5 years. So people go their entire lives and spend decades of doing the right thing, paying off their loans, and we're still seeing an increase of people 60 and over who have their student loans. So, it's from student loans, not to mention like the debacle of foreign policy it is. We're on the verge of a world war right now. Like it is very easy to despair. But here's what I will say. I suspect that the pressure and the economic pressure of this administration is going to push them to do some pretty populist things as we get towards election season. Because if you think about it, if you were to do something like forgiving student loans earlier in the election season, that leaves a lot of time for people to forget about it, like the stimulus and things like that. So I suspect that a lot of these more populist initiatives will have to happen when we start getting towards the primary. And if they don't, we're going to lose significantly. So I'm hopeful that the people at the top are not blind, deaf, and dumb, but I have my doubts. So we'll have to see. But there is an insurgent wing of the party. If we lose any one of the metrics of this next year, I think it will empower a completely new generation of leadership. And if we win, it'll be because young Dems and this new generation of leadership decided that the stakes were too high and we can't lose our country. So what I can say and what I can take heart in is here in California, we're basically our own country, and we have the ability to withhold the national trend. We're able to like resist that national trend, and we're able to make sure that we pass the laws that protect our people. But I feel for people in the South, in the Midwest, who are in Republican administrations.
Thank you. It's good to see that your awareness is high on this. And I know watching you in Central Committee, I don't get to see this side of you because you have to play moderator. Yeah. So it's refreshing to see that, and I hope you bring that passion to those DNC circles, because I'm chair of nothing and no one. Our community, yeah. So our community, Iranian American community, it's less about being Democrats, it's about not being Republicans, because we've seen this movie before with Bush and with Trump, and our community is in danger with the coming of a next fascist who might just be a more capable fascist than the last one. So I hope that the Democratic Party will react pretty quickly, but the window on voting rights certainly has closed. Right. The Supreme Court has more or less indicated that they're not going to allow it to go through, even if they manage to pass it now. So
here's another thing
you can do is get
the Senate map
passed. Yeah.
You look at the Senate map, it is possible to, if you look at the Senate map, it's possible there are 4 seats that are marginal that could flip. If we win all 4 seats, including 1 or 2 defenses, we could sort of counterbalance the Kirsten Sinemas and Joe Manchin's, which we should never reelect again. If we should cut.
They're not up for election this time either.
I know, but when they come up, we should never reelect them. We've learned our lesson.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. I don't want to keep you here any longer, so thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. Hope to see you again next time with hopefully more uplifting news about how things have gone.
All right. Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
You too.
All right. And thanks everyone for sticking around. let's see, Amir, do you want to just give us the very quick and dirty update, club update, and then we can call it a day?
Sure, which the money in the bank is the same it has been for several months. $2,000.25 and 37 cents. $2,025.37. There's a $25 membership fee in transit, and that's it.
Very good. Okay, and I think when you say the same as last 2 months, we should clarify we didn't have a meeting since like October, so we actually did renew
Correct.
quite a few members, so that was good to see. And with that, if I'll just leave it one more time if there's any other questions or comments before we sign off. Thank you everyone for taking the time to be with us. We'll see you guys in April most likely. Have a good evening. Bye everybody.
And Happy New Year for next month, since we're not gonna have a New Year.
Happy Nowruz to everyone.
Eidatun Mubarak was for next month.
I don't have my Nowruz music ready to go. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Good night.